Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So Tran and I got some stuff to rant about as we all saw the All Big 12 football awards and all
The all Iowa
conference,
State team.
the all Iowa State team, Iowa State versus everybody, and I love it. I love the new smoke, the new heat in the
Yep.
conference. They got people riled up today. Some of it a little overblown, some of it justified. Tran, you ready to break it down?
Absolutely.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be a funner
Don't you want
video.
them to hit the like below?
Thank you, Tran. Please give the promo, man. Hit the like
Hey,
button.
before we get started, guys, this is how we check the roll call. Hit the like, share, do it all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, it's funny you say that, man, because the Weatherman Tran fan base is
Oh,
growing.
Jesus.
And I see it in the comment section. I've seen it on Instagram. You guys out there in the Weatherman Tran Nation, make sure you show some love in the comment section as well. All right, Tran. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but I did. So,
No, not embarrass me at all.
all right, let's get down to the awards that came out today. A lot of scuttlebutt. First off, I do want to say congratulations to Iowa State for the awesome season they've had. We will actually give some predictions on how we think the Big 12 championship game will play out between Iowa State and Oklahoma on Saturday. But they had a wonderful season, especially within, obviously within the Big 12. Out of conference wasn't as much, but before we get into what we like and what we don't like, Matt Campbell, that whole gang, well deserved, in terms of the attention and the adoration that they've received on the season that they had. Now, Tran, with that being said, I want to ask you a question before I share my screen and we walk through this. I asked this question on Twitter today, not a single person answered it. What is the criteria, or how did they determine what qualifies as all conference? Is that based solely on conference games played, or is that based on the totality of a season by a Big 12 player or performer? Does that make sense? And I feel like there's one of probably three answers to that question. It's either one of those two, either the totality of the season as a Big 12 person, it's either just the Big 12 games, or it's completely subjective and I just vote how the hell I feel. What's the criteria?
I think it's a combination of two of those.
Okay.
I think it's the total resume, honestly, because it has to, because no matter what, you're still playing and you're still a part of the Big 12, regardless if you're playing UTEP or if you're playing Baylor. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Secondly, I absolutely think it's subjective on who the people who are in charge of voting and putting in the votes. I think it's completely subjective off of their eye test, or even if they're not watching all the games, stat watching.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, I mean that's fair. I mean, and when I say subjective, I mean subjective in terms of what you weight. Are you weighting the whole? Because I feel like as a voter, there's people out there that potentially could have, like for example, Iowa State losing to Louisiana Lafayette, right? There's some voters out there that may have voted with only 9 games in mind for Iowa State and removed that one and said we're only going to look at the Big 12 resume, if you will, especially with that being, and it's easier this year because that's the meat of the season. And so I guess what I'm asking is, like, if last year when we played like LSU and Sam balls out, like, does that count towards him being an all Big 12 performer? I'm just curious what people think, or if anyone's ever asked a voter about this. I'm not a voter.
yeah,
Tran's not a voter, so I don't know, or if that's even a discussion. I think you're right. I think it's just combo of subjectivity and probably totality, but just curious if anybody has any thoughts.
I mean, it could be just straight up the Big 12 schedule, but that to me wouldn't make sense.
No,
I mean, because it's not a preseason, you're still playing those games and they still add up to hopefully getting to the playoffs. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully someone out there knows.
So Without any further ado, let me share we'll start with the awards and then we'll get into the actual teams. So let me know what you can see. All right.
It's up.
So Brees Hall, and let me actually make it a little bit bigger.
Brees Hall. It's a given.
Yes. Yeah, Brees Hall. That one, no argument for me there.
When you lead the nation in your specific position, I mean, you have to be up there.
100% agreed. And he was. It's not even like it was like a game, like one random game where he had like 300 or 400 yards. He was consistently a dog all year long. All right. I think that one we can move off that pretty quick. We both, boom, we agree. Defensive player of the year, Mike Rose. So I was giving a lot of love to Mike Rose, especially coming in and playing the game. He was, banged up when they played Texas. He played through the game, had 13 tackles, had an excellent game against us, in my opinion. With that being said, Joseph Osai was my defensive player of the year. Yes, I am a Texas fan. Yes, I watched more snaps of Joseph Osai than I did of Mike Rose, although I did watch a lot of Iowa State and just watching them play. I just think that Joseph Osai was a substantially better football player and was probably, on my top 2, top 3 list of football players in this conference. I think that highly of how he performed. I know statistically Mike Rose had 4 picks this year, about a sack and a half. And so you're weighing that against Joseph Osai, though, leading the Big 12 in tackles for loss as well as fumbles forced. So, and Iowa State fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if Mike Rose had a performance in the manner that Joseph Osai had against Oklahoma State, where that was probably one of the best individual defensive performances we've seen by a college football player, period, in D1 this year. So I'm just a little confused by that, Tran.
Well, yeah, he willed the team that game, and
I know it's one game.
So
it's
far
one game.
But it's not just one game. It's even when opposing coaches call him out, when they call out 46 and say that guy is great, that guy is unbelievable, things like that. When you get the national pundits, not recruiting, but the talent evaluators for the NFL draft grades, placing those out there saying that guy has great get off speed and his motor is unmatched, things like that. You see it. You have to sit down and watch the game. One of the stats that don't go into it is all the QB hurries. And not only that, one of the other stats is all the sacks the defensive line or other linebackers who are blitzing get because of him causing the quarterback to step up or step outside of the pocket. So it's something that he just helps the whole defense. He just makes the whole defense better.
Yeah, I just thought he had a bigger overall impact on the game than Mike Rose. But is it egregious that Mike Rose won Defensive Player of the Year? No. You can make an argument for him. I think this was actually one of the most competitive awards. Tran, when you think of before Terrell Bernard went down, he was a candidate.
I agree, but you have to play the whole season, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to put up tape all season. You can't put up tape for like 3 games and then be done.
That goes for you too, Ronnie Perkins. Since they want to talk on Twitter like that, Ronnie Perkins, I mean, you can't pop up half the season. Now your boys, Benito and Isaiah Thomas, they got something to say for the body of work. We'll get to them later. Mike Rose winning. It was a tight award. It was a tight race. The Texas people are probably going to say Joseph Osai. The Iowa State people are going to say Mike Rose. So I get it. But as we go to Offensive Newcomer of the Year, I agree with both of these. Actually, both the Newcomers of the Year, I don't have any issue with Tony Fields on defense or Xavier Hutchinson.
The only issue that I have is Tony Fields is not in Texas. So he's not on Texas. That's the only thing I don't agree with. But yeah. When you explained it to me that newcomer will not count freshman as well. Definitely Xavier Hutchinson. I'm down with that.
So freshmen, like, and so these guys here, Deuce Vaughn, offensive freshman of the year. That one
Fantastic.
is, yeah.
Signed, sealed, delivered. That one's perfect.
Our boy from Round Rock, Texas, 5 foot, little baby Sproles. And then they had a tie for Hasheem Young and Kari Coleman. Both of them,
either.
because Hasheem Young had some big plays this year, including the pick against
OU.
Yeah.
Was it against OU? Yep.
Yeah, against OU. So both of these guys, I see no issues with it. Special teams player of the year. So this one is going to be very controversial because you have Tristan Ebner, who had 2 kick returns for touchdowns for Baylor, and he wins this award over our guy, Deshaun Jameson, who led the Big 12 in kick return yards, but only had 1 touchdown, and Phillip Brooks on Kansas State, who had 2 punt returns for touchdowns. So they settled on Tristan Ebner. I know a lot of Texas fans are upset about Deshaun Jameson not even being on first or second team for return men. So we will kind of take a look at that later in terms of the numbers on maybe what they saw. But, Tran, I know you had some thoughts just about
what they missed as well. and what they missed as well. So, I mean, you look at the one kick return for a touchdown, but you're not counting the one where he got tackled at the 1 yard line. Just missed it. You're missing the one where he got tackled at the 5 yard line. Just missed it. So I mean, he's right there. He's just not getting the 7 points. I'm pretty sure both of that field position we actually scored. We put points on the board. So he was responsible for that. So I mean.
All right. So offensive lineman of the year, I'm not going to dispute Creed Humphrey. I'll be honest with you. Like after the last few games, I haven't seen, whether he's killing it or not killing it or anything like that. I know, our guy Sam Cosme, I could make an argument for him, but our offensive line as a whole probably dampens the overall perception of somebody winning offensive lineman of the year when the line's bad. But I'll leave that to anybody else that wants to debate that. But I'm not like, angry guy, old guy yelling at the cloud over Creed Humphrey being offensive lineman of the year. I am that case for Darius Stills. Because this right here is a classic example of getting by on reputation. Because if I'm not mistaken, he was selected as preseason Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This brother had 11 tackles, and I'm not the D-line stat guy where it's like, you know what I'm saying? But I don't understand.
It doesn't matter. It's 11 tackles. You should get more than 1 tackle. Especially the way he dominated the last 2 years. Okay,
he had 22 with the assist. I'm sorry, y'all. He had 22 with the assist. But
still that's a little bit over two per game. With the way he's dominated offensive lines in the Big 12 the past 2 years, that's such small production. And I know we put too much on the actual sacks, and him having like, what was it, 1.5 sacks.
Yeah, and that was the same point you made with Osai earlier. I like the fact that you're being consistent there. Yeah, there's a lot you don't see.
It's just that when you look at OU and you see them graded second in the nation, and you have 2 guys who both have a total of 12 sacks. That's disrespectful, honestly. It's disrespectful to those guys. It's disrespectful to a player like Joseph Osai, Taquan Graham, who had a great season, Hubert, who had a great season. I think he led the Big 12 in sacks. Yeah, Jaquan Bailey. I mean, there's a lot of names out there that I think had a better season than him and probably should have taken home that award.
Did you notice him when we played West Virginia this year?
No, we rolled out away from him every single time.
And that's not that counts too. If
Yeah.
you know, to be fair, and I'm not saying the brother had a terrible season. I'm saying if he's classified as defensive lineman of the year, then if you're going to give at least give Joseph Osai this award. Then if you're not going to give him defensive player of the year, then give him defensive lineman of the year. That's all I'm saying. Because what Joseph Osai did in terms of impact and what Darius Stills did, and I understand Darius Stills' reputation, and his reputation, just like Joseph Osai's reputation started to grow, can impact, you know, blocking scheme and all that type of stuff. So we don't want to favor one argument over the other. However, watch the film, look how they graded. Like, this isn't deep. And Joseph Osai made first team all defensive line. And if you don't want to give it to Osai, give it to Isaiah Thomas or Benito for all the sacks they got and how they graded. So, I mean, where's the objectivity here? I'm curious.
There is none. It's off of reputation alone, and this one seems like, oh, he's a senior. Let's put him out on top. Maybe it's something that's deeper cut than that they want these kids to have, these young men to have more awards when it comes to draft status. Maybe it's that. Power up the league.
So I'm also curious here. So hang on 1 second, because we're going to talk about Matt Campbell. Here, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second because I want to bring up some of these stats. But Matt Campbell won Coach of the Year, and you said you agree. So we actually disagree on this one slightly. I thought this one should have been Lincoln Riley personally, but Tran, state the case for Matt Campbell.
I mean, Matt Campbell has the head-to-head win against Lincoln Riley. If they're looking at it just from a Big 12 perspective, they only lost one game in the Big 12. He turned this team of what do they call it? 3-star mentality, three stars with the 5-star mentality. You know, it turned them into winners. Lincoln Riley has. I think what he did was fantastic, especially flipping the season when they one more extra loss and they're done. And then them turning it around to the point where they're dominating. Great job. But I just think that Matt Campbell just did a really, really good job this year, especially with the way the season started and how they turned the team into a well-rounded team, honestly, in all three facets of the game.
That's fair. And I said I don't have a huge, because I like Matt Campbell personally. I just like the guy, what he stands for. I just think that Lincoln Riley is kind of a victim of his own success. And this year was unique because it's like, hey, I'm going into a year where I'm chasing my sixth consecutive, Oklahoma's 6th consecutive Big 12 championship. And there was a lot of smoke. Hey, this is now a full, kind of slate of Lincoln Riley only players. There's no more like Bob Stoops kids on the roster. And this is the first time he's not working with like a transfer quarterback. And people are saying, can he develop and grow his own quarterback? Then things get off to a rocky start and they start 0-2. And yes, one of those losses, and that's, again, probably the difference maker here, is Matt Campbell defeated Lincoln Riley in the regular season. We know they're going to go against each other again this weekend, but that may have been, hey, if they're close, tie goes to the runner. But what Oklahoma did once they got people back, and how they evolved over the course of the season and how they look, has really impressed me. And I think I would have given that award to Lincoln Riley personally. But I have no problem at all with Matt Campbell. Love Matt Campbell, and I think they both are deserving of the award, honestly. So you can see the all first team, right? On my screen. So Brock Purdy here won, first team all QB or first team all Big 12. Sam Ehlinger, so we're about to scroll around a little bit. Sam Ehlinger's second team. But I have some questions. And Spencer Rattler, I think, was honorable mention. And I think this is why you were telling me how much Oklahoma may be motivated for this Saturday. Because let's take a look at some of these stats. And I know it's not all stats. It's not all stats, Tran. But these numbers these numbers aren't very close.
No, they're not.
Look at the efficiency number. We're talking about like between Brock Purdy and Spencer Rattler, a 30-point disparity between Sam Ehlinger and Brock Purdy. Very, very close. Sam Ehlinger, though, I would say makes up for some of that in the run game, right? And has a couple touchdowns, as does Brock Purdy. But I'm just curious how Brock Purdy ended up on top of these two, or is he also just getting the automatic pass for the head-to-head win, for a team win? Because I was told that.
I think it's that, honestly. After us deep diving into this, and we even went even more granular than what he's talking about, where we looked at the 9 to 10 games played, and Sam Ehlinger, what's the one game that he missed out on?
The Kansas game,
where he could have probably put up at least 300 yards, which would have pushed that yardage way out of reach for Brock Purdy. I think it was honestly just the only thing I could come up with was the fact that he has the head-to-head on both of those quarterbacks. He's an upperclassman, and in their mindset that Spencer Rattler is going to control this conference for the next 2 to 3 years whenever he decides to go to the NFL. I don't think that that's right. I don't think that that's fair. I do think that Spencer Rattler was robbed, kind of. But that's what they're looking at right now.
And I know Spencer Rattler's also getting punished for two things, right? We have to bring this up. He got benched in the middle of the Texas game, even though they won. Bad optics, because Sam Ehlinger did have a better football game in that game than Spencer Rattler had. So, OU fans, y'all want to fight with me on that? Go rewatch the game. It is what it is.
Sam willed them. They can't really argue with
you can't argue
like,
that.
To the tie, yeah.
And then Spencer Rattler also threw the pick that sealed the game for Iowa State. Outside of those two arguments you can bring up, Spencer Rattler, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves in terms of his effect. Like, and I hate to just be all-out stat guy, but the stats aren't close. Like, 280 per game, 279 to 227. That's a gap. That's a wide gap, right? Because if we take out Brock Purdy's Kansas stats, like you were talking about, because these guys miss games or whatever game you want to talk, that's equivalent to the game that the opponent that Spencer Rattler didn't get to play. So in this case, like Sam Ehlinger, it was Kansas. Brock Purdy got to play against Kansas. You're talking about 2,000 yards versus 2,400. That's a 400-yard differential with, Sam having probably slightly more attempts because you got to take out the attempts. But if you do kind of the similar exercise with Spencer Rattler, the gap actually widens in Spencer Rattler's favor statistically. And that doesn't even count for the touchdown gap, too. This guy has 24 touchdowns in 9 games versus 17 touchdowns in 10 games. Like, what am I missing here? And yes, Brock Purdy does have, I think, 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns as well. Maybe we can go and pull that. But I'm confused as to, or did they not put running backs on here? Or they put Max Duggan? Where's Brock Purdy on here? I think he had 4 rushing touchdowns. So 21 total touchdowns. And then Spencer Rattler, I think, had 1 or 2 on the ground. So that's still a gap, and he's played 1 more game. So we got to I don't know. The quarterback thing, I think you can make a very strong argument for Spencer Rattler. I think you can make an argument. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because the quarterback play in this conference wasn't very good this year.
No.
It wasn't very good this year. That's why we're now arguing. That's why I can't get too emotional about any of this stuff, because the guy I'm lobbying for wasn't great. He just put up really good stats. And I know we're comparing individuals, and there were games where Sam did win games. He did win the Oklahoma State game. He did do everything he could to win the Oklahoma game. I thought Sam played a much better game against Oklahoma in a loss than Brock Purdy played against Oklahoma in a win. You see what I'm saying? Like, Breece Hall went off in that game. So,
Yeah.
I know I'm belaboring the point, but curious to see what other people feel about it. Running backs we were fine with, right? For first team. There's not anybody that we're, wide receivers, I'm cool with.
Jamal is the only fullback in the Big 12. so yeah.
How you gonna disrespect?
So he's good. He's good.
How you gonna disrespect my man at Kansas State like that?
Oh, come on now.
I know.
He doesn't catch that one random touchdown up the seam every third game.
Charlie Kohler, being tight end 1, that's fine.
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem with that. Creed Humphrey, Cosme.
Yeah, that's fine.
Gabe Burkage, I don't have an issue with. Phillip Brooks.
Did Tevin Jenkins play the whole season though?
Did he play after us? Did he keep playing?
Because I know that their offensive line was decimated. So I don't know if he played the whole season or not.
Oh, before we could do that, Phillip Brooks, just so you guys can see the return numbers we were talking about. So Deshaun Jameson, as I was talking about, like, at first, when I first thought about this, I was like, man, Deshaun got screwed. And now I'm like, okay, they're basically saying he was the third of 3 people, right? Because I can't argue with the 2 touchdowns when this guy's return average is damn near similar. And like you said, 1 yard line, 5 yard line, the penalties that negated returns. And that's where it messed them up in terms of punt return, because, it's being second to last in the conference at 2.6. And that's also a reflection of our punt return unit. But Phillip Brooks,
they took away 2 touchdowns from him.
Phillip Brooks was averaging like kickoff return type yardage on punts. I think that's where he set himself apart. And so I've tempered. I've calmed down a little bit, I should say, since initially seeing this, because you said it best, Tran, about his electricity and some of the pass returners we've had, but interesting. Let's see here. All right. Any issues with first team D line? Because I do.
What, you think Will McDonald should not be there without the?
I think
one of the Oklahoma guys.
Yes.
Need to be, Darius Stills. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the Oklahoma guys need to be there. I have no problem with Wyatt Hubert. I have no problem with Jaquan Bailey. It's Will McDonald and Darius Stills. Those are the 2. That at least one of the Oklahoma guys need to be in there.
It's crazy, man.
Maybe even 2.
The linebackers. Oh, go ahead.
They were rated the second best defensive line in the nation. Not the conference. That's what blows my mind. And at this point, we can't even say this is just they're just giving it to seniors and everything, like, because Will McDonald's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know what games they're watching.
I'm actually okay at the linebackers.
Mike
Personally,
Rose, Wallow, Tony Fields. Yep, I'm good.
I'm good there. DBs, I'm actually good. Mooring wasn't as good as he was last season, but he was still awesome. Eisworth was awesome. Yeah, I think Petrie led the conference in picks. So, shout out to Austin McNamara. Our guy may have been in there because our guy was leading the conference before he tore his ACL. So, didn't finish the fight.
You got to play the whole game. You got to play most of the games at least.
So the rest of this isn't bad. We're just highlighting the stuff but the linebackers, I thought I'm fine with what they decided. Shuba Hubbard, man. You think he'd come back if you think he's thinking about he should have gone to the NFL last year?
Yes. I think he's probably thinking of that over the off season with all the crap that he was having to deal with, honestly. I mean, I'm just being real. Like,
oh boy. There's my man from Kansas State, because they're the other team that uses a fullback. Shout out to Briley Moore.
Hey, it's yours next season, probably. Oh wait, no, he's a senior. Never mind.
So, receiver, as a Texas fan, it's hard for me to weigh in because our leading receiver had 28 or 29 catches. So I don't even know what good looks like anymore. I know Marvin Mims is awesome. He'll be probably first team preseason. He would be first team preseason Big 12 on my list next year.
I think Winston Wright had a big game against us, a pretty big game. Yeah.
Yeah, these are good. These are all really good players. Iowa State, man, getting the number one.
Not surprised about their tight end.
Yeah,
but
number one and number two.
I would have liked to see maybe Stogner somewhere in there. I'm a huge Stogner fan. But
how did he finish up this year statistically? I don't know. So
I know he was injured for 1 or 2 games.
So to your point,
maybe that might have been added to. Yeah. But I think he's a really, really good tight end.
Shout out to Cameron Dicker for second team all Big 12 selection.
Push for first next year.
Push for first. I agree. I don't think there's nobody else on our offensive line deserve any of these type of accolades, so we can move on.
No.
Ronnie Perkins still
there you
go. Perion Winfrey. So it's just and then Nick Benito didn't even get mentioned.
Travesty.
I don't get it. That kid had 3 sacks against us. Now, granted, I have to watch myself because I can't be the Texas fan or the Big 12 fan that only grades people on how they played against my team. We watch more than enough games to have pretty sound opinions on this, plus all the prep we do for each time we face an opponent that we're preparing for. But I don't know. It's just it's interesting. Some really, again, these linebackers were A1, and you could make, I think in a weaker year, DeMarvion Overshawn makes this list, but it's hard to get Overshawn in here when you have a Malcolm Rodriguez and an Amen and Obi Amiga, Terrell Bernard, even with him playing the shortened season. Plus all these guys had previous accolades before. Good linebacker conference this year. I mean, it was a much better defensive conference. And maybe that
you can see it just by the passing yards per game. You see it, the passing game. I mean, the highest passing yards per game was Rattler at what, 279?
279.
So that's leaves in bounds better than the past 15 years probably.
Mm-hmm. So this is where going to Chris Brown, knowing how Chris Brown graded this year, I think he's getting penalized because of the team he's on. Because, and again, good defensive conference, but I think you can make an argument over one of these DBs. He had a, because we know he graded well than all of them, including Morig. But there's an argument for Chris Brown, in my opinion, to be first team. But that's the only other like Texas guy I could reach for from an accolades perspective. From what I'm seeing here, honestly, Tran.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is maybe Taquan Graham, but over those names right there, and not getting over Isaiah Thomas. No, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Joseph Osai was just wanted to highlight he was honorable mention defensive player of the year as well as defensive lineman of the year. Deshaun Jameson was honorable mention everything. Brendan Eagles was honorable mention wide receiver. That may be surprising to some, but his numbers, again, he took a hit with them only playing 9 games. So 500 yards
Pro
in 9
Football
games.
Focus had him as one of the highest rated in the Big 12, right?
They did. His rating is actually higher than I even thought, and I think it's because of how poorly he started the season versus where he, and when I say start the season, I'm talking about like the UTEP game where I'm like, brother, are you even trying to run a slant? But he kind of picked it up. Now we just didn't have consistency in our pass game. And you look at Joshua Moore, where he started the season versus where he ended the season, where he's banged up and not really part of the offense anymore. All those things are frustrating. Like Bijan Robinson definitely could have been offensive. You see, he was nominated for Offensive Freshman of the Year, just didn't get going in time versus Deuce Vaughn was doing it from game 1.
Yeah, that's the big thing is that he didn't get as much playing time as Deuce Vaughn, or didn't get the ball as much.
So those guys, those two, by the way, will be competing for first team and either sharing, potentially competing for, potentially competing for Offensive Player of the Year, depending on how, if Bijan gets used the way, if he has that same type of uptick in usage the way they had at Ohio State with Zeke, the sky's the limit. We'll see. But I don't think there was any other stats or anything I wanted to share. So as we wrap the video, I just want to get into predictions for the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State, Oklahoma, and you've seen a lot of the smoke on Twitter with a lot of the OU players being pretty fired up about, especially on the defensive line.
They should be.
Spencer Rattler should be fired up. There's a lot of people that should be fired up, depending, just based on, again, the gap in some of these numbers and them playing one less game. I'm not saying motivation's going to be a factor in this game or anything like that. Because I think Iowa State is in a position where they could be the first team to do this. They feel like the team of destiny. Similar vibe all year to last year's Baylor team with Matt Rule. Only I think Brock Purdy gives them a better chance than Charlie Brewer gave Baylor a chance last year. And we know that Charlie Brewer didn't even finish.
Had to play 3 quarterbacks last year.
Yeah, and took them right to overtime and everything. So, all that being said, I am going to pick OU to win the Big 12 championship game in the rematch. I think it's hard to beat the same team twice, Tran. I think OU is also a better team with, obviously Ramondre Stevenson coming back, Ronnie Perkins coming back. Theo Weiss has gotten a lot better. Marvin Mims still there. Their attack. It's our fault as Texas, because you say it all the time. We should have killed the snake. We had the opportunity to end this and give them that third loss.
And I bet you if they would have lost the third time, they would have lost 5 games this season. If we would have beat them, because they just would have been like, all right, season's over.
Maybe guys start opting out.
Yeah. People started opting out because and we did that. It was us. Everyone else before us did their job. Kansas State beat them. Iowa State beat them. We didn't do our job. And I'm with you on this. I'm OU, and I'm thinking to myself, because we're Five fans. We think of someone like a John Jones when he's fighting the next up and coming guy. So that guy's been prepping for this one championship fight for 3 months. He lives in the championship fights, and that's basically what OU has done. And now there's fuel to the fire of them being completely disrespected by the postseason awards. That they have their full attention. The one thing is, can Matt Campbell solidify why he was chosen as the Big 12 Coach of the Year and get them ready to play?
Yeah. If he beats them twice and beats Lincoln Riley twice, then I will hand in my apology.
Oh, what will happen is some team's going to toss a lot of money. Some team in the Midwest, one of the big name teams from the Midwest, and toss a lot of money at him. That's what's going to happen.
I think that it could happen win or lose. I mean, we saw how much money Matt Rule made, just off of their appearance in the NFL.
This will be their first conference championship in over 100 years if they do win, right?
Something crazy like that.
Why not in 2020?
All right,
but,
so you're
I'm
picking.
still going with OU. Yeah, I'm still going with OU.
OU,
just because of the championship mentality.
They're gonna get number 6, man. That sucks. I know there's a lot of OU people that watch the channel, but from our view, that's unacceptable.
It's very impressive on your side because I think I thought it was amazing that Kansas won 12 basketball championships in a row.
Something like that. Something crazy too. Yeah.
I can honestly say that I think if they win 6, that's more impressive than winning 12 because it is the ultimate team game. And this one is there's injuries left and right.
They had a coaching change.
Yeah, they had a coaching change. To me, that's if they win 6 in a row. I mean, hey, I'm not an OU fan by any means, but that's the highest form of respect is that they're champions and they keep on doing it.
And it's a shame on the rest of the conference. Most important. So we have to.
Texas.
That's on us. We got to get it right. We've been saying this since I've had this channel, right? Every year, hey, this is the year we got to dethrone, we got to win the, blah, blah, blah. And now that's why we're having the coaching conversations. That's why we're having, all these conversations around recruiting that have come up this week. So it's another year. We go into another season and we're going to get optimistic again, as we always do, because we're fans and try to look at the silver lining.
Idiots.
I mean, if you can't sell hope, then what can you sell, man?
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I mean, at the end of the day, do I think that we will have one of the most talented, if not the most talented roster in 2021? Yeah, I do. Maybe that's just my arrogance as a Texas fan. Maybe that's just me looking at how we've recruited and built this roster versus how every other team's recruited and built their roster. And for some reason, everybody can get their stars to work except for us. So, conversation that can be expanded at another day, at a later date. But I think we're both picking OU. Do you have a score? I don't think I gave a score.
I think it's OU by 14.
I'm
gonna say 35-21.
Okay. I was gonna go like something like 38-28. I was gonna say a double digit win. I just think that they're gonna leave no doubt. They've been on this stage and
I do too.
Pull it out, but we'll see.
The thing with me is OU found themselves offensively and defensively, and Iowa State is not an explosive offense.
But they're a physical offense.
Yeah, they are.
And that physicality did generate explosive plays against OU because they did have some big touchdown runs from Breece Hall. And they are, I've heard a lot of Iowa State people say this, and I think they're correct. Hey, we're still going to come and be the same people that came in the game trying to punch you in the mouth, and the same people on defense that you can't move in the middle. I just think that even with all that happened and Spencer Rattler's inexperience on the road and the whole situation, they still barely won. So now
the tight ends also need to have a gigantic game because that's their matchup issue.
Oh
right
yeah,
there,
they have a huge matchup advantage. Yeah, OU still can't really solve for that. I'm not sure what
the size
Grinch,
differential.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. I'm curious to see what Grinch does on Saturday, but we'll see. Do you have any other hot takes before we leave, either on the Big 12 or other championship games this week?
No.
I have a hot take.
Go
I don't
ahead.
like what time these games are. I don't like the fact that
is it 11? Is it the 11 game?
It's always 11 game, and it's just like, okay, that's the contract we signed, whatever. But then like I believe the Big 10 game is the same time. Actually, let me pull this up real quick, if you don't mind.
I think. Well, when we went to the Big 12 championship 2 years ago, it was early morning too.
It was.
remember that.
That's what but I just I wish the games, and I'm not saying one over the other. I'm just saying I wish they were spread out a little bit more, because I'm going to be trying to consume both those games.
Why can't it be the 2:30 game? I don't know. I don't understand.
2:30 spot is Clemson Notre Dame. That will have undivided.
So that's fine. But you could still play 2 games back to back, like they're doing that with the Big 10 and the Big 12.
I don't know.
I remember when we won the Big 12 championship 9 years ago. Well, it was way longer than this. 12 years ago almost. That one was played right after Florida, Alabama. So we played that one at nighttime. I do have something. Shout out to Iowa State fans. When we gambled and bought the bought the tickets, we put them right up right after we lost, and they've swept them up. So shout out to you, Iowa State fans.
They sure did. They sure did. They came and got those tickets. We didn't even have to worry about it. So yeah. Well, Tran, it's as always, man. I know I've asked a lot of you this week. I appreciate your time and hanging out.
Do you want to go ahead and do our predictions for all the other games, championship games?
Ooh, I didn't even have that planned, but let's do it. So Notre Dame or Northwestern, Ohio State. Who you got? We don't have to give scores.
Ohio State big. Ohio State big. 3 possessions. Big.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think it'll be close at first because, Pat Narduzzi and those guys, at Northwestern.
They want to prove that they have their spot too, so they want to run it up.
Iowa State wants to do their thing. We talked about Iowa State, Oklahoma. How about this one? Louisiana at Coastal Carolina.
So do you go off of your theory that that it's hard to beat the same team twice here?
Yes, it is hard.
I do too. I think it's been a rough 2-game stretch for Coastal Carolina, playing BYU, then going to play a end-to-end game with Troy. And I think that Louisiana has 2 weeks to prep for this team. And I think the last time they beat them, they only beat them by 3 points. So
it was 3-point game.
I think so. Let me see. Coastal Carolina.
I'm gonna pick Coastal Carolina and then another close game because they're playing at home. But I think it's gonna be a very close game.
Okay.
What was the?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Raging Cajuns 3-point game. 30-27.
So you're picking. So okay. So we split there. You're picking Louisiana. I'm gonna stay Coastal again, and go against my theory only because it's a home game. But
and they don't they're not doing the 25% rule as we saw with the BYU game. So they're gonna have a packed stadium.
Yeah, they're gonna have a COVID party. We actually didn't do Oregon versus USC.
Isn't it Washington versus USC? Because I thought Oregon was pissed that Washington was in.
Oh, I thought it was tomorrow. Am I tripping?
I don't know.
That's how disconnected I am from the Pac-12.
Pac-12. The disrespect.
No, I think you might be right. I think you might be right. Oh man, no, I think you're right. I think it's still gonna be Washington.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. No. 3 days ago, Oregon Ducks replaced Washington Huskies.
Oh, so it is the Pac-12 championship.
That's how bad. Like both, I didn't know that they would replace them. Hey, sorry, Pac-12 fans.
I'm sorry. Dallas, all you guys, I'm sorry. I just have not. They haven't been in my. I haven't been in my view as a college football fan. Pac-12. I thought I was like I thought Friday.
Yeah.
I thought tomorrow night was. So we could go ahead and pick the game.
Yeah, I'll go USC just for Dallas Schwartz. like that's. I mean, they play everything to the wire. I mean, they play everything, and they've won a lot of close games. Oregon's got beat by Oregon State. I know it's one game season technically at this point, but they got beat by Oregon State.
They were up by a lot in that game too. I did watch that game. I did watch that game.
So they were actually a team that they couldn't field 53 scholarship players. That's why Washington got.
Okay.
They didn't lie like what everyone else is going to do.
I apologize for the disrespect, Pac-12 country. All right. I'm going to pick USC because I think, with Slovis and what Graham Harrell's doing offensively. I do like the fact that Mario Cristobal just got a raise, though. And I think he leveraged that Auburn
Texas
situation.
Oh, Auburn and Texas
I think it was probably
situation.
more so. Yeah, Auburn/Texas situation. Although I think it was probably more. I think him getting his money was more Auburn related. But he got
available at the time.
Yes. Yeah. So 100%. He got his money nonetheless. So I think, again, like you said, tight game, but I think USC takes this one, which really holds. And Clay Helton, he keeps surviving because he can claim he won a Pac-12 championship, and they have like a top 10 recruiting class.
Mm-hmm.
And he signed another quarterback. So the other day. So,
get you one, Todd Orlando. Get you one.
All right. Let's go to Clemson.
SEC.
We'll do SEC last, but Clemson and Notre Dame.
I can't bet against Clemson. I think their defensive line and defense is going to play a lot better this game. They're the same situation as Oklahoma. They're bred to win championships, and you may catch them one time during the regular season, but this is where their full focus is on there. And I'm not going to even throw in the fact that they have what's his name, a Sunshine as the quarterback.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
Because DJ balled out that game, so you can't say that Trevor Lawrence was going to just do so much more.
Maybe. I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence gets in the 50s. I guess you could potentially say, but I totally agree with you. Like the Clemson defense, especially when you have your backup quarterback, and your defense should play better.
They need to play better.
And they played poorly, even in we saw this in the Boston College game, that they played poorly in that game in the first half before, they had to have the wake-up call. Because DJ was putting up was moving the offense, putting up yards. Notre Dame, they go to triple overtime at Notre Dame, and the defense still just, and I know one of them was like the ATN exchange fumble, and Notre Dame ran it back. It wasn't every single point on the other side, but I don't think Clemson will be that sloppy. Kind of same thing, right? Like, and I'm not even pulling. To me, this has nothing to do with the same team twice theory that I normally have with all these games, because A, Trevor Lawrence didn't play, and B, I think for Notre Dame in particular, and kind of, how they got rocked a few years ago in that playoff game that Ian Book did play in, for just them beating Clemson, that gave them a confidence boost. I think that meant a lot to them, to where they're going to line up on Saturday and they're not going to be intimidated.
It's going to be close. Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be flip-flop the other way. I think it's going to be 7 points to Clemson.
Potentially another overtime game.
Yeah,
I do pull out with Trevor Lawrence.
I really love the defensive front for Notre Dame too. I think they can cause some problems for this offense, and ETN as well. So, but I got Clemson by 7. I don't know what the score is going to be, honestly.
I'm going Clemson by 3. I think this could be an overtime game, but I think Notre Dame is a terrific team. I would not be surprised at all. It would not shock me if they beat them. And I think Notre Dame got something out of beating them the first time, whether Trevor Lawrence was there or not. Last game we'll do is so I don't feel like doing the AAC. I think Cincinnati's going to beat Tulsa.
Yep.
Even though Cincinnati hasn't played ball in a little bit, I think they'll clear Tulsa. Alabama,
but I do love Tulsa's defense backs, by the way.
Me too. If only the Cowboys would let Reggie Robinson play, who be drafted from Tulsa. He's just been hanging out. You use a 4th round pick on the guy. And
it's all good. We're fighting to win our 5th game. It's not a big deal.
Alabama, Florida for the SEC championship Saturday night. Florida coming off of a very disappointing
Alabama huge. I think
that Bama's rolling right now.
Well, that loss and them knowing that they can't make it into the playoffs, it's just a psychological thing then, that they're not going to be up to play this team. Plus,
I think you're always up to play Bama. I disagree with that. I think you're up to play Bama.
Florida's defense is not good.
That's a problem.
And I think Alabama's offense is very good. Very good and very balanced.
Yes.
And Alabama's defense is very good, where they can get stops against their offense. But I'm not too sure that Florida is going to get many stops against Alabama's offense. So that's where I stand at.
I mean, I think, if you're Florida, if you're Dan Mullen, I think it means something, especially in a COVID year, to say that you're SEC champions, whether you make the playoffs or not. I think that's a big deal. I think Kyle Trask and just how he closes out his career, I think it's a big deal if they're able to beat Alabama, especially in a championship game. I think those are things that are meaningful. With all that being said, Alabama's gonna Florida can't run the football, to me, and you have the defensive issue. I think Alabama's just too good.
I just think they're better.
Yeah,
they're just a better team.
There's no team I've seen, like a Nick Saban coach team, that they don't overlook these type of games. Like they've had so many of these type of games before with so many different groups of kids, and you really, like, they may play a close one, but if they play a close one, it's because the other team, like Georgia, was really, really good. Like, that's the only, like, but they're not like some of these teams, you look at them in the past that have been like good, lights out all year, and then they get in the conference championship and they lay an egg, so to speak. Yep. Yeah. I don't see that from Alabama, because if you think about it, like, this would be, if you didn't know Nick Saban, but you only saw the teams, you would think that this is kind of a trap game for Bama, because they're going to make the playoffs. They've been the best team in college football this year, and they just saw Florida lose to a you know, a team of LSU that had kind of literally just tapped on the season. You know, let's just come out here and do our thing. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Alabama's going to come out there.
No,
and
they
play
got something
well.
to play for. They got something to play for. That's what this is the SEC championship. So this is their first championship before the second championship they want to get. So that's the thing, and I think they're going to be focused, and I think they're just going to be hitting on all cylinders.
Me too. Well, hey, I'm glad you asked me that. I don't mind spending a little extra time talking college ball, but you know, across again, Pac-12 fans.
Much respect, Pac-12.
Much respect. Much respect. Much respect. I'm getting older. I can't stay up as long. Or, you know, I can't wake up at, you know, I don't even know what time the games are, man. Blame the TV contract. What is going on? What is going on over there? I don't even feel like a Power 5 conference anymore. Yeah, we about to get cooked.
7 o'clock more in the morning kickoff.
Because they're gonna be like, "Don't you guys like Texas? Are you really making fun of? Do you have room to make fun of anybody? Make fun of who we want to make fun of.
We make fun of our team too.
We make fun of our team too. That's the beauty of it. I have fun with you, brother.
Always,
guys. Let us know in the comments. Throw some likes our way. We appreciate it. But let us know in the comments how you felt about all Big 12 lists, awards, who deserved it, who got snubbed. You know the deal. And your predictions for Championship Saturday. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, horns always up.